Thromka, my friends, and welcome back to our series where we're covering the major characters in the upcoming Warlords of Draenor expansion. My name is Necroxis, and today we're going to be covering the only warlord in this next expansion who we unequivocally know is going to be on our side. He is the chieftain of the Frostwolf clan and father to Goel, more commonly known as Thrall. His name is Durotan. The son of Gul'dan and Gaea, Durotan was the heir apparent to the position of chieftain of the Frostwolf clan. Years before the First War, a young Durotan witnessed the birth of his future mate Drek'thar, and was told by his mother to bless her coming into this world. Doing so, he did note that she seemed ill. A few years later, during a Kushharg festival, Durotan would befriend a young Blackrock orc named Orgrim, the son of the Blackrock chieftain Tel'khar Doomhammer. Despite belonging to two different clans, which usually held their own differing customs and mannerisms, the two became fast friends. It is also around this time that the Frostwolf ancestors commanded Durotan to be taken to the orcs' sacred mountain of Oshigun to test whether or not the path of the shaman would be his future, as well as if he'd be their chieftain one day. Unfortunately, he was unable to see his ancestors and thus would not become a shaman, but he did manage to sense their presence there nonetheless. A short time later, while racing one another through the Terrakar forest, Durotan and Orgrim were attacked by an ogre. The two would have died had it not been for the timely arrival of a Draenei hunting party from the hidden settlement of Tel Mor. The hunting group was led by Restalan, a longtime friend and the second in command to the Draenei's leader, the prophet Velen. Restalan sent word of their safety to their respective clans and took the two youngsters to their settlement to meet Velen, who had been visiting. While entering Tel Mor, Durotan and Orgrim witnessed Restalan using a green Atamal crystal, which hid the city from their territorial enemies like the ogres and the Graan. During a dinner with the prophet, they discussed their people's varying histories, with Durotan commenting to himself later on that during that short meal, he and Orgrim learned more about the Draenei than their entire race did over the past century. When he returned home, Durotan met the young Frostwolf girl that he actually had seen being born, Draka. Durotan fell in love at first sight, not even believing she was of his clan, but Draka rebuffed his advances at first. However, she'd ultimately agreed to join him on a courtship hunt, and the two eventually did become mates. A few years following this, Durotan's father Gul'dan was killed in a battle against a Graan and his ogres, causing Durotan to ascend to the position of war chief by hereditary right. It was only a short time after this that Ner'zhul called together the various orc chieftains to inform them about the Draenei's supposed treachery that he was told by his supposed dead mate. Before the orcs began their genocide against the Draenei, however, Durotan was dispatched by Ner'zhul to meet with a party led by Velen near Oshigun. Here the prophet revealed that what guided the orc spirits to the mountain was in fact a dying Naru named Kior that resided inside Oshigun and helped the Draenei escape from Argus 25,000 years ago. Most of the orcs responded to this news with suspicion and hostility, especially the Frostwolf clan's shaman, Drek'thar. The meeting ended in a failure, and despite orders from Ner'zhul to capture Velen and bring him before the Elder Shaman, Durotan released them, deciding that there was no honor in taking a willing prisoner. What followed was all-out war between the two factions. During a battle in which Durotan's forces were defeated by Restalan, Drek'thar realized that their people had been cut off from the spirits. Durotan and Draka saw this as a terrible omen, despite Ner'zhul's reassurances that their ancestors had supposedly called this a just war. It was during this time that Gul'dan discovered Ner'zhul's misgivings about the mission given to them by Kil'jaeden, and supplanted his former master. With the Horde turning toward the path of fell magic, Durotan grew increasingly wary of Gul'dan's actions, but he did allow Drek'thar and the Frostwolf shaman to receive warlock training as to not rouse suspicion. The clans were united then into the Orcish Horde, and several chieftains ran for the position of war chief, including Durotan. The Blackrock chieftain Blackhand would win this role, however nobody knew that Gul'dan secretly orchestrated his victory and was using the Blackrock ruler as a puppet. After receiving information from Orgrim, now known as Doomhammer himself after his father's death, around the same time Durotan's father died, Blackhand ordered Durotan to attack Tel Mor, the city that he and Orgrim visited as children. Recalling the green Atamal crystal named Leaf Shadow that Restalan used to conceal the city, Durotan did the same to expose it. The Horde then sacked the city and killed everyone within, including Restalan, who fell against Durotan in a duel himself. The Horde's final target would be the Draenei's capital of Shattrath, but before the invasion, Gul'dan called together the clans at a mountain named the Throne of Kil'jaeden in a future Hellfire Peninsula. There he offered the orcs the immeasurable power of the Blood of Manoroth, But shortly before this, Ner'zhul, who despite having been supplanted by Gul'dan was still privy to his and his Shadow Council's goals, learned of the plan to offer the blood to the orcs. The Elder Shaman, wishing to spite Gul'dan and the Legion at any chance he could, had warned Durotan and Drek'thar of Gul'dan's scheme. Therefore, the Frostwolf chieftain refused the blood and forbade any of his clan from doing so either. Durotan had also warned Orgrim Doomhammer of Ner'zhul's words anonymously, so he didn't drink as well. Durotan had always been an advocate of traditional orc society, and as such began speaking out vehemently against the corruption that Gul'dan and the warlocks of the Shadow Council advocated. Unfortunately, his word did not sway the orcs from destroying Shattrath and sealing the Draenei's defeat. With no enemy to unleash their rage upon, the Horde began tearing itself apart until Gul'dan was contacted by Medivh, the last Guardian. During the construction of the Dark Portal and the upcoming plans to have the Horde cross over into Azeroth, Durotan continued to voice his opposition against Gul'dan and the Horde's leadership, which angered the Warlock. The Dark Portal would be completed, but not before Durotan and Drek'thar visited his mother Gaia and told her that Drek'thar was pregnant. Durotan chose the name Goel for his son, and then they set off for Azeroth. However, once the First War began and the Horde passed through the portal, Gul'dan exiled Durotan and his entire clan, declaring them outlaws for standing against him. To spare his people from the Warlock's wrath, Durotan took his wife and his clan far north to a hidden valley within the Alterac Mountains. It was there that they lived through the events of the First War, and their shaman, even including Drek'thar, were able to even regain the favor of the spirits after they forsook the path of a warlock and returned to their roots of shamanism. Their shaman greatly aided the Frostwolf clan's survival in the harsh cold of the mountains, as well as ensuring their camp wasn't flooded during the spring. They also befriended the white wolves that lived within the valley. As we all know by now, the First War would come to an end with Stormwind's destruction, and Drek'thar also giving birth to their son, Goel. Now with the son to continue his legacy, Durotan realized there was far more at stake and vowed to stop the evil Gul'dan. He traveled to the only person he knew who stood by him, his old friend, Orgrim Doomhammer. By this point, Gul'dan had fallen into a coma and Doomhammer had assassinated Blackhand and assumed the mantle of Warchief. He welcomed Durotan and Drek'thar into his base with open arms, and the Frostwolf chieftain explained everything he knew about Gul'dan, the Shadow Council, and the Warlock's bargain with the Burning Legion. Doomhammer vowed that he stand at Durotan's side when they confronted Gul'dan with his crimes, but for Durotan and his own warriors' safety, he sent them away to what he thought was a safe place. Unfortunately, several of Doomhammer's warriors had been spies for Gul'dan, and one of them accompanied Durotan and Drek'thar to this safe place. The spies summoned assassins to kill Durotan and his mate, and they largely succeeded despite Durotan killing one of them. Drek'thar was slain, and Durotan's arms were sliced off, and he died slowly as he bled out, finding grim solace in the fact that he would be dead before having to watch his infant son torn apart by wild animals. And so ended the life of the Frostwolf chieftain. As for their son, most of us know the story by now. The infant orc would be discovered by the human Aedelas Blackmoor and taken to Durnhold Keep, where he was raised as a slave and gladiator. This orc would be given the name fitting for his predicament, Thrall. As for the Frostwolf clan, Drek'thar assumed leadership as chieftain and had Durotan buried in Alterac Valley under a monument known as the Rock of Gul'dan. Drek'thar would lead the Frostwolf safely through the Second War and beyond. They would remain hidden until Thrall came of age and escaped Durnhold Keep with the help of the human, Teretha Foxton. Thrall would eventually find the Frostwolves and learn the ways of shamanism under Drek'thar. They would follow Thrall as he liberated the captured orcs, fought against the Burning Legion in the Third War, and helped find Durotar, the land Thrall settled the orcs on after the Third War, named in homage of his father. Despite all of this, after Orgrimmar's completion, many of them returned to Alterac Valley to live in their traditional homes and remain as neutral as possible as tensions between Thrall's horde and the Alliance increased. Although the Frostwolves would inevitably find themselves in contention with the Alliance's Stormpike dwarves for ownership over the land. Years later, after the Cataclysm had sundered Azeroth, Thrall was sent by the Green Dragon aspect Ysera to enter the Caverns of Time. His goal was to help find the missing Bronze Dragon aspect Nozdormu, and the Warchief entered another timeline, smack dab at the moment that Durotan and Drek'thar traveled to Doomhammer's camp to warn him of Gul'dan's treachery. In this alternate timeline, Thrall actually accompanies his parents and his infant self to Orgrim's safe place, but is forced to watch his parents die as history plays out. He is unable to stop their deaths lest he alter the course of time. However, he does tell a dying Durotan that his son will live, his people will be redeemed, and the orcs would have a land to call their own easing his father's passing. Now, in Warlords of Draenor, Durotan leads the Frostwolf clan again, and does so from the land of ceaseless winter and volcanic peaks, Frostfire Ridge. He is described as loyal to his allies and terrifying to his enemies, and has rejected the Iron Horde's call for unity. This has placed his people in direct competition with the Thunderlord clan, who seeks to join up with the Iron Horde, as well as the Bladespire ogres, who just want to kill everybody. Durotan and his clan have tamed the massive frost wolves of Frostfire Ridge, just as they have in our universe in Alterac Valley, and orc and wolf fight side by side with deadly efficiency. It's not much to go on, I know, but that's all we have about Durotan thus far. If I'm being entirely honest, I'm not a fan of orcs in general, but Durotan is really not one that I particularly care about. I'm not sure if it's because he's the father of Thrall, one of the characters that I hate the most in this universe, or because he is so obviously going to be nothing but an ally who we start out as not trusting entirely. Blizzard teased the idea of will or won't Durotan and the Frostwolves join the Iron Horde in the introduction panel to the expansion at BlizzCon, but they almost immediately spoiled it a few minutes later by saying he wasn't. However, they've also said that Durotan might not be as noble as we all think. But personally, I think they're just trying to merely stave off the inevitable thoughts of uninterest in him as a character. The only real hook in the story I would find interesting regarding Durotan is one that might not even happen. In my admittedly not fully thought out theory, the end of Warlords of Draenor will see the Alliance Horde and Iron Horde causing the same outcome to the planet that happened in our universe, meaning its destruction. For some reason, I see Blizzard trying to make this Draenor like ours, and therefore what happens to the characters on this Draenor needs to match what happens to them in our universe. So in short, Durotan needs to die. I'm curious how or if he does and who will cause it. Will it be Gul'dan again? I believe that 6.2 raid will be Shattrath and Grom as the final boss. But my theory regarding Gul'dan is that he will offer the remaining Iron Horde forces the blood of Manaroth to try and defeat the Horde and the Alliance, who, by the time of 6.2, have been kicking their asses. Perhaps Durotan, and maybe even Ogrim Doomhammer, who I'm assuming is going to assume leadership of the Blackrocks after we kill Blackhand in 6.0, tries to convince Grom not to drink the blood, and Gul'dan sends assassins to kill him as he did in our timeline. But in the end, despite what I've just said, I think Blizzard will go with the more boring and predictable story. That being, Durotan survives and comes back to our universe with his Frostwolves and join the Horde. Because, you know, we need to reinvigorate the Horde's numbers after they lost at the Siege of Orgrimmar. I'm sorry. I'll stop bitching about the Alliance's story not being really important, even though they won the Siege of Orgrimmar, but I'm honestly not sure what else Blizzard could do with this character. He doesn't have many interesting story hooks, and has pretty much only served as the beacon for morality for the rest of the orcs, all of which we've seen historically are pretty terrible. My apologies if this opinion section isn't as interesting as the others, but it's hard for me to be enthusiastic with the character I am at best ambivalent toward. Thanks for watching, everybody. That's it. That's the Durotan episode. If you think I've forgotten something or gotten something wrong, feel free to leave those in the comments below. Also, let me know what you think of Durotan and how you think Blizzard can make him interesting in Warlords of Draenor. If you find this video entertaining or informative, feel free to like, favorite, leave a comment, and subscribe. But if you'd really like to help me out, the best way you can do that is by sharing this video and my channel with people you think would find it interesting. I am always looking to introduce more people to the lore, so if you're able to send even one person my way, I'd be eternally grateful. Make sure to stay tuned to this channel for future Warlords of Draenor lore, because with the World of Warcraft and a new expansion on the horizon, there is always more and new lore to explore. And I hope we can do that together, because it's always more fun that way. Thanks again, everybody. Lok'tar Ogar. Ugh, I feel dirty after saying that. Maybe there's a reason I'm an Alliance player.